All right. Well, it says we're live and it gives me the option to end the stream. So, what usually happens, Krista, is on the side, do you see on the right side, there's like this option for like a chat?
Yes.
So, if this works properly, the Facebook and the YouTube channel should link. So, anyone that posts a comment either from the Facebook group or the YouTube channel, um, should be able to see, and whenever they post a comment or something like that, it'll pop up on the right side, and we can
Cool.
take a look at those in real time. If you
Thank you.
guys are here, if you're watching, go ahead and post on the side chat where you're from. And in the meantime, I'm going to open up this queso.
Oh, this is exciting. This is kind of the highlight of my day here. I'm living vicariously.
I
All
tried
right.
to open this the other day just off of pure strength, and I couldn't. I had to use hot water and a knife to do it. I just can't do
It's
it.
a serious seal protecting that queso.
Serious seal action right here. Oh wait, we got some people. Can you see
We
it,
got
Krista?
people. I can. I got people chiming in. Yeah.
Where are you guys
Hello, everyone.
from? Let's see.
Hello. We got
Ooh.
quite a few people. We got someone from Wales, the UK. We got Ontario, Canada, Germany,
What's that?
Switzerland.
All right, excellent. This is just gonna be a quick question and answer. We'll go for about an hour and a half, you guys. This is super chill. These Facebook Lives, you guys, this is supposed to be a hangout session, right? So I have snacks, Krista. If you want to go get snacks and a beverage, you
Got my
guys make
coffee.
yourself comfortable, get snacks, get something to eat. We're just gonna hang out, talk about recovery, some things that are not about recovery, and let's just have a good time. A lot of these calls, I want to just hang out sometimes too, you know? So you guys get to see like what kind of recovered people talk about as well, you know, to see that you can be normal. Because at one point we were really, really sick. But you know, just having regular conversation, showing you guys, yeah, you can be normal again. You can do this again as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love it, Junior. And it's so important to have laughter in our recovery journey. I remember that was something like when I was in the thick of it, I really kind of lost my laughter. I lost my confidence. I lost my sense of humor. And so coming on to calls like this and just getting to chat and be lighthearted and have a little bit of laughter and watch someone enjoy some lovely queso dip, very refined dining and culinary experiences. I could live vicariously because I couldn't have queso dip at that point. So this would be like the highlight of my day sometimes to get to see something like this. So
salsa con queso.
is it
That's what
spicy?
this is. A little bit. A little bit. We got some peppers in here. A little bit. So, all right. Well, if you guys have any questions, post your questions in the chat, and we'll pick through the ones that sound good or interesting that will spark some conversation. We can just chill. By the way, you guys, you might hear me cough a few times, just like that, a few times during the call. So I got COVID again for the fifth time. So I think, what was it, like 3 weeks ago, Krista, that I got COVID?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it lasted for, I don't know, probably like a few days, 3-4 days. And then after that, I was feeling back to normal again. Everything's gone now. I'm totally back to regular life again. The only thing that's lingering a little bit is the cough. It's not a big deal though. From what I've been told by my doctor, these like post-COVID coughs can last anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So it is what it is. Last time I got COVID, it was the same thing. It was like a 6 to 8 week cough as well. But other than that, I'm normal again too. So for any of you guys that fear, oh, if I get COVID, I might relapse or I might go back into this, I'm terrified of it. Don't be. I've had it like 5 times. As long as you know what to do, as long as you know how to respond and support your physical body at the same time, you'll be all right. And Krista, you had something gnarly too, right? In December?
Yeah, I did. Now in hindsight, I wish I had tested because that's about when I was hearing that there was the new variant of COVID coming out. And that would have been kind of a check my bucket list kind of thing, get through that again. But whatever it was a pretty intense respiratory infection that was over 3 weeks. And it was tough. My initial COVID, that was the trigger for my more severe CFS, was tough. but this was at least as tough, if not maybe a little bit tougher. And it took 3 weeks to really come out of the acute part, and then a few weeks of dealing with some, just residual feeling a little bit crummy, a little bit, and having that residual cough took a while to go away. So, but exactly like you said, having the experience of going through recovery and understanding how to actually rest, it was really interesting to have that new awareness and look back at how I responded the first time I got COVID. I didn't rest. I was totally trying to push through symptoms. It was like day 2 or 3, and I was trying to go full force back to working out, back to all these things. And I kept pushing my body, even though I was still having intense symptoms. And even if I rested physically, I had no clue how to turn my mind off and rest mentally and emotionally. So going through recovery has helped me be so much more balanced. So it's such a interesting kind of looking back in hindsight and being like, wow, I really couldn't turn off no matter how even sick I was. I couldn't control this part. So one of the benefits of coming through this is learning how to do that and rest and do things that are restorative beyond just physical rest, that relaxation component. I had no clue before.
One thing I learned, Krista, with recovery is not to listen to my monkey mind when it suggests me to do all the things, because I know my mind works in a little bit of excess, right? So when I started to feel better from COVID and I had like my last fever dream after like day 3 or something, and I woke up drenched in sweat because my body was doing something, it was fighting something. I woke up like after day 3, day 4, and I was fine. Like I felt so much better, like 70-80% better, right? And for like 3 days though, I was hanging out in bed and I was at home, right? Not doing pretty much anything. But the day that I started to feel better, all of a sudden my mind was like, you need to go for a jog. You need to go start back up with work, and you need to start, doing all these things and go run some errands. You've been behind for the past few days. But what logical sense does that make at all? Because like for 3 days, I was like laying in bed, like sick and trying to support my body and not moving at all. And I go from that to my brain suggesting to me, you should go for a run, you should go for a jog, you should go do errands. That makes like no logical sense. And I picked up on that because that's something I learned in recovery of like, oh, hold on. On my good days, on days where I feel good, I'm not going to listen to my brain because it's lying to me. It doesn't have my best interest at heart. It tells me what it wants me to do, but I have to ask myself, but what should I be doing? So let's make logical sense out of this. The day before I was doing nothing. So today, the next logical step would be just to do a little bit more than nothing. So I started moving around the house more. I started sitting up more, um, and I stopped drinking Pedialyte and eating soup and just started introducing more regular foods. And I went outside for like, I don't know, maybe like a short, like 5 to 10 minute walk or something like that, like super chill, super relaxed. And then the next day after that, my brain was like, you feel really, really good, like way better than yesterday. Now you should really go for the run and catch up on your things and do all these errands. But I had to listen to my logical side of my brain and say, well, that literally makes 0 sense again. Just the day before, I was doing some light things around the house, and I took, like, a 5-minute walk outside slowly, and I was still, like, coughing and stuff like that, and I just started reintroducing food. So what makes the next logical step, what makes sense is, like, maybe going for, like, a 10 to 15-minute, like, light walk slowly outside and trying not to lay down as much or lay down, if any, at all in my house, and then just eating more regular foods. And day by day by day by day, logically, I just started to do a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and uh, really pace my way back into regular life again, regardless of what my brain said, because my brain wanted me to do like 100 times more than that for whatever reason, and it kept pushing it on me. Go, do more, do stuff, do stuff. And that's the thing that got me in trouble the first time, actually, Krista, because I had my first huge crash after COVID in the beginning of 2020.
Oh, wow.
Well, my first big crash in 2019, but my second big crash after I got COVID in 2020. And I didn't grade myself back into life. What I did was I got sick for like 2 weeks. And then I started to feel better and I started to ramp up for a few days. And then I immediately resumed full-time work again. And then I immediately started trying to exercise and go to the gym. And when I felt bad, because my body was trying to signal with me, you went back into life too fast. You need quite a few weeks to do this. I pushed because that's what I was doing my whole life. And then, boom, it hit me like an asteroid. So that's definitely something I learned. And this is why I said you guys can probably get COVID multiple times and never relapse back into this kind of stuff. Oh, snap. Who we got here? Oh, man.
What?
Let's go.
Guys,
Hello.
I'm alive. I'm sorry to
Dude,
interrupt.
look at your hair, man. Did you dye it?
I did. I dyed it.
Yeah. All
Looks
right.
amazing. Amazing.
Oh, man. Why am I doing? Holy
Whoa,
crap. I don't like this. Hold on now.
Crazy. Adrianne in the house.
Hey guys,
How's it going?
it's going good. Hanging in there.
You hanging in there?
Yeah.
You know, you had food poisoning a couple days ago, right?
Yeah.
How you feeling from that?
I feel better. I feel probably almost 100% today. So that's good.
Good. Did you
Really
do something with your hair?
Yeah.
You dyed
it's
it.
lighter. Yeah, I got it done on the weekend.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
You cut it.
Thank you.
Great. Looks
Thank
great.
you guys.
Well, we're just hanging out. Adrianne, I got Tostitos and dip. We're just
Nice, nutritious.
what does Miguel say? I'm like the healthiest man alive or something like that. Yeah.
I just had lunch myself too.
Nice. Sweet. Let's get into some questions. Actually, I'm curious to see anyone's question. Krista, you want to pick one? My head is like cut off, yeah? From this top banner. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna slouch. I'm gonna put my chair back. I'm gonna slouch so y'all can see me.
I know. Dude, should I do it too? Miguel's like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Well, I wanted to say to you, Junior, like what you brought up is so important though, because it's that those extreme behaviors, right? Should I do it too? I feel like maybe I should too.
I don't know if you can.
I can't do it.
It's fine. It's fine.
But I was just looking, I've been talking to a lot of my thrivers this week about these like extreme behaviors, these all or nothing behaviors that we all had. And like you talk about in the program, those black and white behaviors and trying to find that middle ground. And my whole life was black and white. Like I remember this is back like before I had CFS and I was in my doctorate program and I used to be like a total gym workout person. I was pretty intense about it. Like if I couldn't do the hour of cycling and then the yoga class and then do the weight training, I had it in my mind like then it wasn't worth like going and doing anything. And so when I had to study more, instead of just dialing it down and going less or going for a 10 or 15-minute walk, my brain was like, well, that's not worth it. Like, why would I just do 10 minutes? I might as well just do nothing and focus on studying and just do. So I was very like extreme with all of my behaviors like that, whether it was like the physical stuff or it was mental stuff, like with studying. I talked to several people this week that had similar things that had dealt with this before, where I literally felt like I didn't know how to study to get anything other than like, this is how black and white I was. I was like, I'm either going to get an A or I'm probably not going to pass the class. Like, I don't know how to study to get a B or a C. So I have to study all the way to get. So even like, it was with everything. Either I was eating totally clean or I was living off some Taco Bell for a week. I mean, it was like one extreme or the other. Nothing was in balance. And that's like when we go through recovery, I was trying to recover using those extremes. Like either I was fully resting or I was fully expanding. And I was just going for a walk and then rushing in and lying down. And there was no like transition. I didn't apply that to my life before. So I had no concept of how to apply that to my life during recovery. So people would talk about pacing and these things. And it was the most foreign, just wild stuff to me. I have no concept of what anyone meant by that. And so this concept that you're bringing in of finding that more balance and taking that next logical step, it was life-saving and life-changing for me. So appreciate you bringing that up and sharing your story with recent COVID. Yeah, that's really helpful for a lot of folks.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you, Krista, for sharing your experience too. So it's really staying in that gray area, not being so black and white. And you'd be surprised how many people I talk to of like, what's the point of walking 10 minutes or only 15? If I can only walk 10 minutes, I might as well not walk at all. But dude, that 10 minutes is important, right?
Yeah.
You got to give ourselves credit for the small stuff. I even had a conversation, and I thought about it with my buddy actually who's a psychologist, who really informed me on why we act this way, of like, why is 10 minutes like you would rather do nothing versus like, if I can do 40, like that would be great. And it's just really the inability for us to give ourselves credit to do the small things. And a lot of that is, it roots back to adolescence, right? Like if you have a childhood to where maybe your parents were super busy, or they neglected you, or they didn't give you the time of day, in order for your parents to acknowledge that you did something cool, you would have to do something like explosively awesome, right? Or do something like that's a super big deal. And then your mom or dad would be like, hey, cool, that's pretty good. And then something goes off in your little kid brain of like, oh, I did something larger than life. Daddy pays attention to me. Mom gives me attention. I need to start doing this more. Screw the small stuff. This is what I want to pay attention to. This is what earns me mommy and daddy's love. And that habit follows us into adulthood. We chase those big explosive wins, those big explosive milestones, right? To be seen as a big person, important person, or whatever it is. And we model our behaviors after this, right? We aim for the stars, like forget everything else. And because of that, we kind of learn to neglect the other stuff, the small stuff. But what we're trying to teach everybody in the programs, like the small stuff done every day consistently, is what makes a really big difference. It's not doing the big stuff like, you know, every now and then in an explosive way. That's the thing that's going to keep you stuck, right? So we have to really reframe that. It's not like, oh, might as well not walk at all if I can only walk 10 minutes. Like, no, 10-minute walks every single day is what's going to get you to that 20, 30, 40 later down the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that is such an important takeaway message for, I think, a lot of people listening too, because that was for me. And I think it's in our society too, culturally, right? We want that. We get the big awards, the big accolades. For me, it was so many of the awards, the next continuing education certificate, all of these like sort of fancy externals, and we don't really appreciate like the day by day, the journey of it, and those small everyday habits that form those bigger outcomes. And we don't celebrate those small things that are so foundational. I had no clue about that stuff. It sounds so weird to say it now. It's like one of the other coaches, Coach Colin, always says it's like being human 101, learning some of these basic things. But really, for me, recovery was in the small things, and getting up every day and getting natural sunlight and reading a couple pages, taking that couple minute walk, doing those kinds of little things consistently with that repetition built that foundation. So thank you for bringing that topic up, Junior.
Yeah,
super cool.
For sure. I got the banner down. I found it.
Welcome back up. I was like trying to sink my chair down.
I saw that while I was trying to explain. I saw you being like, yeah, I don't like when there's a banner with 3 of us. Maybe with 1 of us or 2 of us, it's okay. But I can't be going in a Hobbit mode for like an hour and 30 minutes. It just won't work for me.
Oh. Was it like that for you too, Adrianne? Lots of those little habits that added up.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I kind of resonate with what you guys were saying about, you know, having a family that recognizes, you know, the things that are like measurable. It's weird because I grew up in like an opposite household. Like my family supported me no matter what, like for the little things. I think I had too much support and not enough challenge. And I think that got me into some trouble too. So for those on this call, like if, you know, you think back to your childhood and it didn't resonate with you, you know, you could have too much support too. Like growing up, I had too much support where I wouldn't put effort into even small things sometimes. Cause I was like, oh, my parents support me, whatever I do. Right.
Yeah.
So, and like a sibling that did the same thing. So I definitely had a lot of support, not enough challenge in my life. And I do think, you know, any extreme can get you in trouble. So,
right.
You got it.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great perspective too. Cause like I come from the side of like, mommy, daddy, look at me. I did something great. And unless like I'm like an astronaut or the president of the United States, then they won't acknowledge anything. But then for you, Adrianne, like on your side,
it was like too much.
Too much. They're like, wow, great job, Adrianne. Great job, Adrianne. Great job. Yeah. And so like everything you do, you kind of feel numb to it and you don't feel like you're doing a good job for anything almost.
Right. And it's easy for me to give up on things because I didn't have to get that gold star. You know, it was like
Right.
already there in the beginning.
Mhm.
So it's like I saw it through like my work ethic. It just was a lot harder for me because I
Yeah.
always had it.
Yeah.
Support. So yeah,
Yeah.
too much support on my end
Interesting.
for sure.
Yeah. Any of
Yeah.
those extremes, right? We get into those
Yeah.
extremes. It's that middle ground, that balanced perspective is the healthy way.
I know.
100%.
That's so
Which I'm
cool.
grateful for, but then again, there's drawbacks from that. So thank you,
course.
mom and dad, but had to learn a lesson from that, right?
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
we kind of have to learn to reparent ourselves in a way
Yeah.
afterwards and teach our own selves balance, something that we should have been taught during adolescence. But if your parents would have knew better, if they knew that that was the case, then they would have done it. Right. So there's no point in like going back and be like, hate you, mom, dad, for not doing this right. But like,
Yeah.
we're
Right.
all trying our best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. You got
And
it.
it's interesting that you bring it up too, Adrianne. And I know we'll jump into questions, but just reflecting on my childhood too, I can see where there was a lot of challenge, but then my mom tried to compensate in the other direction. And so sometimes it would swing to the other extreme of like anything you want, like it's paycheck day. We're going to all 3 fast food restaurants. You can pick anything you want off the menu because we know it's been, you know, my mom knew it was a lot of challenge. And so then I can see that really, and she meant well, she was just trying to give her kids something that she could within her resources, right?
Yeah.
But then I can see it kind of ingrained that all or nothing, like either it's feast or famine, like literally,
Yeah, literally.
in your life, and it built that into me.
Definitely.
So I had no concept that there was such a thing as a middle way to respond to life. No clue.
Definitely. Yeah, Krista.
So
Yeah.
interesting.
No gray area.
No gray area.
No.
Well, that's like the most common thing we see in all clients because we always get people coming to us, right, and saying, why is it so common for people to have ADHD or OCD or type A personality or aggressive types of personalities? Why are only these people getting it? It's because everyone that bunches into kind of under this umbrella have things in common. And that one thing in common is like swing really black and white into one area of behavior, whether that's
I'll bring it back.
yeah. Get some water, Adrian. Sounds like you're going through it. But whether that's like mental, physical, or cognitive, there's a black and white behavior somewhere. And I see it in I see it in everyone I talk to. Everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And the emotional component, too, for me, Junior, I can see that too. I felt things very intensely. So, and I saw this play out in my recovery. I would come out of an adjustment period, and I've seen this. I think people that are going through having a hypersensitive nervous system and CFS, we're almost like hyper optimistic. We get like almost elated on those days we feel better, and we're just ready to jump back into life. And it's that 100% all or nothing behavior follows us too into over the top optimism, elation, like, okay, I can recover. I can do this. Let's go. We can almost amp up too far, kind of like what you were talking about coming out of COVID. That pendulum would swing so much for me. And that had been my whole life. So then trying to apply this to recovery without guidance for me was like, I am thinking positive. I am optimistic. What are you all talking about? Like, but then you swing the other way when you go into an adjustment period and it gets so intense.
Right.
So finding that balance is so important for going through this.
So important. And that's like a couple questions that I ask on my roadmap calls, the one-on-ones with people. Like those are an example of like 2 questions I would ask is like, on your good days, like how are your emotions? Like, are they good, positive, and stable? Or is it excessive? Like I got an answer one time from somebody and I'll never forget it. And she goes, you know, sometimes I feel so good to the point where it feels like I'm falling in love. Right. And that goes clearly into black and white. That's excessive. That's extreme. But then we swing to the other side and I ask them the follow-up question of, well, on your bad days, how are your emotions? Is it nonchalant? Is it non-reactive? Is it neutral? At least as neutral as it can be, right? And like 90% of the time, I always get the answer of, it could be better. I have really, really bad days, or like negative emotions run really, really high. Or something that we've been talking about recently, and this is more so a question for your guys' friends, spouses, husbands, wives, families, right? Is if I were to ask the people around you, are you a dramatic type of person? Yeah? Or are you the type of person that has a habit of making a big deal out of everything or most things in life? Because what we teach inside the program, especially with nervous system health specifically, is the nervous system is mainly designed for two things, right? It's designed for stress, it's designed for danger response. But in order for your nervous system to work appropriately, in order for it to decipher what's actually stressful and what's dangerous and what's not, it needs to know what's actually stressful and dangerous and what's not. And it needs to know through the only language it speaks, which is emotional signaling. That's how your nervous system determines what's stressful, dangerous, and what's not.
Yeah.
And what I mean by emotional signaling is if you're having a heightened emotional response, you're signaling to your nervous system that it's time to activate, that it's time to work, that it's time to go, man. That's what you're signaling to it. And notice how I didn't say a heightened negative emotional response. Heightened emotional response, period, whether positive or negative. Because if I put a bear in front of you and it's, you know, you're going to get heart palpitations and feel like you're going to pass out. But if I give you $50 million because you won the lottery on this live stream right now, and I start going Oprah mode and saying, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, y'all going to get heart palpitations the same way because it's still heightened emotional, you know what I mean? Activation. So what happens is the reason why I asked this question, do you make a big deal out of everything or do you have a habit of doing that? Is because if you do, the nervous system is now not able to figure out when it should properly activate and when it shouldn't. Because if you're someone who makes a big deal out of something, you have a heightened emotional state for everything in life. So you're signaling emotionally to your nervous system it's time to go all the time, when that should not ever be the case for a regular person. That's the thing. There's very few people that walk this earth that everything they do is a big deal. Like Taylor Swift, for example. She breathes and it's a big deal. It's in the news, right? But we are not Taylor Swift. We're Junior, Crista, and Adrianne, and you guys are who you are as well. And not everybody can be Taylor Swift. So you kind of have to realize, hey, like 90 to like 95% of my life is actually not a big deal. I should probably start behaving as such as well, and only signal to my nervous system when it is actually a big deal, right? And when you learn to do that, the nervous system starts to slowly relearn again. Okay, I activate for this, not that. I'll do it for this and not that, instead of the nervous system activating all the time, all day, every day. And your symptoms are like a 6 out of 10 all day, every day, and it just never stops, because that's what that is. Your nervous system's activating all the time, right? So just a couple examples of some questions that we ask inside the program. So.
And it helped me to understand this too, because I remember I was one of those people that was kind of like, I don't know, we're getting a little airy-fairy, aren't we? Like we're talking about emotions and how does that have anything to do with my brain and my nervous system and all these very real symptoms. And I was talking to and sharing this with one of my other thrivers the other day too, that the part of the brain we're talking about that gets hypersensitive, that limbic system, it's really the physiological hub of our subconscious. And there's all these important structures in there. You guys, if you're watching Miguel's YouTube and seeing CFS recovery on YouTube, there he talks about the amygdala and how important that amygdala hypersensitivity is. And that part of the brain is what is linking like our very real physical experiences, our sensory information, all of these things to our emotional responses, just like what Junior's talking about. So it's via the limbic system, which is essentially our subconscious part of our brain, that primitive part of that brain. It's also that emotional center of the brain. And so we're communicating and we're changing our brain by that emotional message that we're sending in. So if we're sending in all these over the top emotional states, just like what Junior's mentioning, then that's giving that input into our nervous system that we're in an extreme situation, that things are not okay. We're not necessarily in a safe, stable state. So yeah, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff.
Very cool stuff. Cool.
Yep.
You guys want to take a crack at a question while I take a bite of a nacho?
Right, Junior.
Sure. Do you want to pick one, Adrianne?
Where are we?
Or do
you guys know how to put it up on the screen? I think you have access to it. If you like hover over it, click the show button, and it'll like show it on the screen.
Show
hover? I don't see that.
It's not letting me do it.
Maybe not. Maybe it's just my function.
Somebody says, is almost no appetite during APs normal? Absolutely. I had no appetite. It can swing both ways though. You know, I've coached divers who eat a lot. Like Miguel, didn't he eat Cheetos the whole time he was in APs? Miguel ate Cheetos and Jolly Ranchers, you guys. But for me, I had no appetite when I was in adjustment period. I lost a lot of weight when I was sick, probably close to like 30 pounds. So definitely a very common symptom. Okay. But remember to support your nervous system. Like when I was in thick APs, my brain would forget the necessity things. It was so busy thinking on worst case scenario just to keep me safe that I would forget to drink. I'd forget to eat. I'd forget to sometimes use the bathroom. I hate to say that, but I'd be like, I haven't gone to the bathroom in like 10 hours because I've been I've been running a marathon in my head all day, every day. So just, put some reminders on your phone if that's you, just to get some water, eat something, eat some snacks, more frequent snacks, because come like nighttime, I'd feel even more like crap. And I'm like, what is going on? Oh, I've been drinking all day. I haven't eaten anything all day. No wonder why I'm tired. Yeah, this is CFS AP, but I'm extra weak and shaky because I haven't eaten. So just be mindful of that, but definitely a symptom for sure.
Sure.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing up that concept of supporting our body through recovery. That took me a while to kind of understand what that meant and all these different kind of nuances. And so I was the same as you, Adrianne. I went through phases in recovery where I had no appetite, and then it like flipped on me where I was having to eat every couple hours. And in both cases, I would set alarms on my phone to remind myself to eat, to keep my blood sugar more stable, to support my body while I was in that sensitive state. And that will normalize as your nervous system normalizes. It is just another symptom. And we want to support our bodies while we go through this journey. So awesome insights.
Someone says, seems like I'm the only one gaining weight. Trust me, there's a lot of other thrivers who gain weight. You're not alone. So when you're in fight or flight, your body either wants to hang on to the last calories just in case it's not getting food tomorrow, or it's going to expel it. So it just depends on your nervous system. So, but that's normal if you feel like you're gaining weight.
Absolutely normal. That's that hypothalamus action. That's what that is.
That's what I was going to say, man. I was like, it's back to that sneaky old limbic system.
The limbic system.
Yep. Controls all of that. Controls your metabolic rate and all kinds of stuff. So it can swing either direction too.
Yeah.
Definitely very common. And I want to give you guys reassurance because I know I'm not the only one. I was getting to where I was running out of like my most stretchy leggings. I was like down to 1 or 2 pairs, and like a normal person would have just bought more, but I was like really didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to do it. So I want to let you guys know on the other side of recovery, it normalizes. Even being a lady in my 40s, I'm getting little muscles back. It's still because I wasn't sure. I was like, oh no, I don't know. What about the age and being female? And Miguel could eat all these Cheetos, but he's a 20-year-old dude. That's fine, right? He'll be bouncing back. But what about me? So really excited. I'm starting to fit in some of my old jeans at my healthy jeans. So it gets there. I want to give you guys that reassurance because I had that big fear about that on the other side. There's another part of me that was like, oh, this better be my nervous system. This better be. It is, you guys. And once you can start to be active again and get some muscle mass again, a lot of that stuff is going to normalize. And then, of course, I did have to do the real things like watching my calories and eating more healthy and making some lifestyle changes on the other side of recovery. But once you have that capacity, then that stuff is, and after going through CFS, that stuff's the easy stuff. That stuff gets fun. So on the other side, there's hope. You'll fit in pants again because I had that fear.
I was the other way around.
Yeah.
Actually, before I got sick, I was always skinny. In like the weight training community, we call it an ectomorph. That was my body type, right? So I could eat like a gazillion calories. I couldn't gain a pound. And I was like this all my life. I remember even
so wild.
Even up to like my senior year, like the maximum weight I was, well, for context, I'm like 5'8", right? So the most I was able to weigh, even if I ate like 6,000 calories a day, my body would not let me go past 120 for whatever reason. So I was like super, super skinny. And I thought, maybe it's just genetics or something. Like maybe this is just how it's always been. Maybe I'm just like a naturally skinny person. And then I get sick, and then I like lose weight over the course of like a week, and I lose like tons and tons of weight. at my sickest, I was probably like close to like 80 pounds, which is like really, really, really underweight, right? I look like a skeleton almost. And as I started recovering, like close to about, I don't know, when I was like 80% recovered, I was quite functional in the span of, and I kid you not, guys, it was like, I don't know, in the span of like 2 months. And I didn't change anything with my diet. My nervous system was just regulating. So my hypothalamus was probably regulating too, and my limbic system. I gained like 30 pounds in like 2 months just from, I don't know, my metabolism just regulated and it just shot up to like a regular weight. So right now, depending on what I eat, I'm anywhere between like 140 to 147 if I step on the scale every now and then. And that's way more normal than 120. And the thing is, I'm like 147 if I try not to eat too many calories, actually. If I eat more calories, I'll probably get fatter.
Like it's normalized. You know what? I think this is a good point too, because I did make the choice in this part of my recovery because I'm more interested in optimizing my health. But I do want to say that too. Like I look back what I shared with you guys earlier, like I was the extreme workout person, right? To see physical changes. I was working out like gnarly, like hour of cycling, hour of yoga, hour of weight training, like most days a week. Like it was really intense and I wouldn't really see many changes. I wasn't giving my body adequate rest. But on this other side of recovery now, even with my age and gender and all of that stuff, I probably do, I don't know, 15 max 30 minutes of yoga and some resistance training with that TRX. And then I usually do an hour to 45-minute walk. So I'm not doing this extreme stuff and I can feel the change in my muscle mass with just that little bit of effort, where before I was going and I just could never get definition the way I wanted. So it's very interesting what getting your nervous system in that more regulated way where it can bring in all these health benefits. It's awesome. So thank you for sharing that, Jim. Very cool.
Of course. I mean, the nervous system probably has to do with testosterone as well, right? Like how much or how little you have in your body. Because when I started to recover, I started to grow a beard and like I could never grow facial hair. So now I have like a little bit of stuff here. Like my skin is like darker. So like, I don't know, like my melanin like increased in my body. I don't even know how that's possible. And my voice got a little bit deeper as well. I just started feeling like overall like stronger. It's so strange because we looked actually, the coaches, at like before and afters of when I first started the program myself. I looked like I don't know, you guys could tell me, I looked like a 9th grader when I first started the program. Like I was pale, like I had no melanin in my skin, like no facial hair. It was clean. My voice was high and it was squeaky. I had like no color in me. Like, yeah, it was pretty bad. But now I'm like full form now. I'm like fully evolved. So
Crista, you said it. They say this is an invisible illness, but I swear you can see it. Like if you look at picture, like just you can see it in our eyes, the color of our skin, our hair, right? Our hair falls out and thins and can change textures and just everything. Skin with hormonal changes, estrogen, progesterone, all of that. It's crazy how your nervous system's at the core of all of that.
Yeah. I really think you can, again, thank you for saying that, Adrianne, because that's so meaningful to me. I think you can really see it in our eyes when we're going through it. It's like the life forces just got dialed down to like 1 to 5% max. Like you can see it. And I was actually telling Junior this on the call the other day. One of my wins of getting life back is I was like out hiking and I forgot like a hair tie and I had like so much hair in the wind and all this stuff. And I was like, I remember when I was going through this and I was losing, just big chunks were coming out in the shower. And so now to be like kind of inconvenienced by having hair again was just such a cool moment. Because when you're in the thick of it, you don't know if that's ever going to happen again. You know, you got a lot of fear around a lot of these symptoms that are coming up. And so again, more reassurance for you guys. You can have lots of hair on the other side of recovery. It's kind of exciting. All this stuff.
Crista, you'd probably be able to vouch for this because you were long COVID. But I remember thinking I had long COVID. That's why I think I got sick, but I never tested for it. And I was in a lot of the forums online. That was one of the main symptoms that was being talked about a lot, was hair loss with long COVID. And that was really before I understood that long COVID was the same thing as a dysregulated nervous system. So Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
So Adrianne, I want to ask you before we get into the next question. You work out not nearly as intense as you did before you got sick, but you're seeing better results now, right?
Correct. Let me say that I could. Like I
Yeah.
could work out. I have the capacity to. But if I look back, I worked out that hard. I mean, you guys, when I say hard, I'd run like 5 miles a day. I'd lift for 2 hours a day. I mean, a lot of working out, heavy lifting, but the intention behind it wasn't authentic. It wasn't really aligning with my values very much. It was coming from a dysregulated nervous system. I thought that I needed to do things to fit in and to feel like I was worth something. I grew up as an athlete, so there was a lot of pressure I always put on myself, even though I didn't really want to at the heart of it, want to like work out that hard. So there was a lot of reasons why I did. But if I made the choice, because it's a decision now, if I wanted to do that, I could. But yes, to answer your question, Junior, yeah, I still run, but I don't need to kill myself. I run at just like a 10, 12-minute pace, which is like not very fast, but I maintain my weight so much easier now. And not just that, I just feel like exercise energizes me now. Yeah. Where before I felt like I would leave the gym or after working out, I like couldn't even go to work after it sometimes in the morning. Like I just couldn't. I would drain my energy. So exercise is now working in my favor and giving me energy. So it's a whole different feeling. Exercise gives me a whole different feeling. And looking back, that is such an indicator that I was living in a dysregulated state ever since I was like young, because again, I did sports growing up, and I remember having like volleyball meets or gymnastics meets, and I'd come home and I'd have to rest like all weekend. I was so tired, even being like at a younger age, because I was running probably on just adrenaline my whole life. And now I don't feel that at all. It's amazing.
Wow. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Very cool.
Let's go. It's amazing to see. It really is.
Junior.
Yeah. You guys want to do another question? I'll do it. I'll do the next one. And then Adrianne can do the next one. Yeah.
I do have to hop off because I have another call soon.
Oh, really? What time's your next call?
Just a couple minutes. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's see here. Ooh, I like this one. This one's about soda. Hey, coaches, suppose I have an intolerance to cola. Okay, first, I'll add a little correction here. I don't like the word intolerance, because intolerance means your body completely rejects it. It's not tolerant to it at all, right? Call it a sensitivity. Sensitivity sounds more temporary, and that's actually what it is as well. That's what I called it too. It's not that I had an intolerance to pizza. I can eat pizza, but when I eat it, I go through it because my body's a little bit sensitive to the pizza right now, right? So that's what I called it, a sensitivity. I drink a sip of cola and it triggers an adjustment period or a flare-up. Does it make more sense to drink a few drops of cola every day during the adjustment period, or wait until the end of the adjustment period to take another sip and possibly have a higher tolerance? So when you guys are in a flare-up, your capacity is going to decrease. That's just naturally how that works. And your capacity for everything is going to decrease. Yeah. Your capacity for energy, your capacity to digest naughty foods or drinks or something like that. I noticed I could actually tolerate some sodas outside of an adjustment period, but the moment I'd go into one, if I drank it, panic or anxiety as well. So there's a time and place. Absolutely. So if you want to try reintroducing cola, I would start reintroducing it, like you said, with a few sips outside of an adjustment period. In an adjustment period, I'd try to purposefully make the choice of eating a bit more clean and staying away from sodas. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, fully agree, Junior. That was my experience as well. And that's what I've seen with thrivers too. When we're out of the adjustment period, we have more capacity to add in foods. And I remember learning this with some garlic hummus. As you guys know, that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
But I had, if there's anyone listening that had IBS and has done like low FODMAP, you know, garlic and onion and hummus are probably not the most IBS friendly foods. And I was so excited when I was able to add that in outside of adjustment periods. And then I remember in an adjustment period, I didn't have any snacks. And I thought, oh, that's a healthy snack. I'll have some hummus and carrots. Didn't go as well as one might have hoped. It was not a good enjoyable experience in the adjustment period because I didn't have that same capacity as I did outside of it. So fully agree, Junior. In the AP, eat the foods that you know your body does well with.
Absolutely. Excellent. Adrianne, when's the check-in call? In like 15 minutes?
Let me see.
Okay.
A little less than that.
A little less than that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just get FOMO. I don't want to leave, you guys.
I know. If you finish early, you can hop back on if we're still on. That's fine. Oh, I like this one. Let me do this one. Hold on. Let me show this one on the... Oh, no, I won't show this one on the screen. I'll just read it. It's fine. When my APs are very severe, can I take my antihistamines or medications to help, or does this block the healing process? When you guys take medications, you're using it as a crutch, right? Stop seeing crutches as a bad thing. You need to support your body while you're going through this stuff. You don't have to just only focus on the brain retraining and have no crutch. If you think of it like this, you guys, if you sustain or undergo real physical injury, like breaking your leg, you're essentially asking me, my leg's broken, Junior, and my doctor has given me crutches to use to walk around to assist me while my leg heals so I can move around. Is it okay to use the crutches my doctor has given me or not? Don't make your life any more difficult. If it's helping you, keep your head above water, at least just temporarily for the meantime, use the crutches. Like, you don't have to make life any more difficult by, just saying, I'll just tough this out. I'll limp through this. I refuse to use the crutches for help. At that point, that's just a pride thing. At that point, you know what I mean? Like, use it. Help yourself. That was me as well. When I had a headache, sure, brain retraining was number one thing on my mind and really responding well to the headache. But don't think for a second I didn't take Advil when it went into migraine territory, because I did, right? So stuff like that. I want you guys to actually chime in on this too, Adrianne and Crista. So
I think it could come from a fear place too, a sense of fear. Not just pride, that too, but a sense of fear, because I had a lot of history with medications not working in my favor. And my belief was that they were making things worse. And also I had a belief that when I got off the medications that I was going to get all the symptoms come flooding back, right? Like all of my recovery was a fake or a fraud because I was taking medications. I want to tell you guys, it's not true. Those are just symptoms. Those thoughts are not real. Use the medication as a support, but our mindset, it has a lot to do with our mindset when we're taking the medication. Because looking back, I went through so many medications, and trust me, I was on the medication forums. I thought I had damage from medications. But I was so fearful of that it was my mindset that was making it worse. And as soon as I embraced the medications and I really said, these medications are here as a crutch to support me. I don't have to take them if I don't want to, but let me just try and be a little bit more optimistic. That's when I started to see results with the medications. And then that helped me, gave me a little bit of cushion to actually respond better, do the work here, which is lasting work. We have one nervous system. It's not a nervous system that's being ran by medications and then a nervous system that we're just manually responding well with, right? It's one nervous system. So if you can get a little cushion in that to help you respond well, please use it. And if you get those thoughts of when I get off the medication, what if, swat it away, because at that point you're going to be ready to get off the medications. Trust me. Okay. But I had all those thoughts as well. You're going to be okay, but use them if you have them.
Yeah. I just would echo everything you just said, Adrianne. You said that all so well. And thank you for addressing that fear-based component of it too, because a lot of this goes down to the fear too of, right? We don't want to mess up. We don't want to do anything. We want to get better so bad. We don't want to do something that's going to jeopardize that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think just for all of you guys on the call, I was on 20 plus different medications with some rotating in and out. And I was also on probably about as many supplements when I found this information and started applying these principles. And all the work you're doing to do the brain retraining, it all counts. Like that's what's making the change. The medication isn't making the change, but the medication is there to support you. Just like what Adrianne brought up earlier, support yourself when you're hungry, or support yourself when you know you need to eat, or drink water. Take these medications if they're helping you, and keep your mindset around them really solid. I just totally agree with everything you said, Adrianne. Well done.
Thank you, Crista.
Awesome.
It's important, you guys. It really is. I mean, having some symptoms from medication is real, like side effects. That's real, right? It's not just in the head, but try to respond better to those side effects, because before I would not. I'd freak out, and it just made it worse. And then I blamed everything on the medication, which just reinforced to my nervous system that medications equals danger, right? So every time I took the medication, didn't end up well until I started to reframe it and look at medications from a different perspective and a tool to help me, not hurt me.
Yeah. And I want to say too, to kind of go off of that too, I'm off all of those medications now too. So you guys know that too, like use them to support you, and you don't need them long-term. Like they are a temporary support. Yeah.
And if you do need them for support, that's okay. You're human. It's okay. Yeah. But I chose just to get off of them. So if that's your choice, you're going to be just fine getting off of it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Great takes on that, you guys. Because you came at it from like the fear perspective. I came at it from my own experience, which was the pride thing. Like, I don't need this. I can power through this. But when we go into it with that perspective, that's black and white behavior in itself as well. And then from the fear perspective too, fear is the black and white behavior there as well. So the gray area would be the balance in the middle, supporting your body with a medication if you've been prescribed it, or a supplement that you feel like helps you, whilst doing the brain retraining at the same time. It doesn't have to be this all or nothing. It's both. Again, it's a combination of both working together, supporting the body and working on the mind and the brain at the same exact time. It always comes back to that, it seems like, huh?
Always. Everything.
It's interesting, isn't it? Oh.
Yeah. A little trend there, a little pattern there.
I have one that I'm going to pick just because this one is very near and dear to me. Junior, you're gonna laugh at me. But will crying during an AP once because of how rough it is make me not get stronger when I get out of it?
Oh, yeah. Krista's crying chair is up for auction on eBay, by the way.
No one's bought it yet.
$1 million.
It's been up there for months.
Yeah, $1 million. All the funds go to me.
I had the same fear when I was going through recovery. So I want to give you reassurance, the person that asked this, that you can cry during your adjustment periods. I definitely did, and I made it through to the other side. And I want to say with that, let those emotions come through. We're talking about that emotional center of the brain. They can be symptoms as well. So just kind of let them pass through. Don't take them in. Don't take them personally. Your brain's going to give you stories to try to explain what you're feeling and why you're feeling. Those are the thoughts we want to swat. We don't want to go down these downward spirals of why we're feeling this way, because we could come up with, certainly when we're in the thick of it, lots and lots of reasons why we might be feeling this way. But we do want to let that emotion pass through. We don't want to repress that and shove that down. But I remember going through recovery in my first few weeks, starting to implement this stuff. And I went out and I did my walk, and I did it a little extra because I wanted to trigger an AP, because I wanted to get better. And I responded well for maybe the first 24 hours. And then the next day just got hit with this wave of emotions. And I was outside on my balcony, on my chair, in my crying chair, which we have since named it, where I would go almost every adjustment period and let myself go to that space. So I wasn't crying in my bed, I wasn't crying on my couch, but I had a space that I went to, kind of removed myself, let myself feel those, quote unquote, negative emotions, but those emotions I needed to feel, those chemical emotions that were coming through, feel those, but also don't dwell in them. That's where we can get in that sticky point where we start to dwell, and then we're putting hours and hours of energy into those emotions. And that's where we do want to cut it off a little bit. But I want to give you a lot of reassurance. You can absolutely still make it through an adjustment period if you have an episode of needing to cry like that. A-okay.
And that's great, Crista. Like really, really allowing yourselves to feel those emotions if you need to. Because here's where a lot of people get confused. they think crying or throwing a tantrum is responding poorly. It's not. If you suppress the crying, if you don't throw the tantrum, if you don't let out your anger sometimes, that's actually responding poorly. Where responding poorly takes place if you let out these emotions is if you dwell on the emotions. That's where you start to get in trouble. So if you feel crying coming up to the surface, how you respond well is exactly what Krista said. Cry and let it out for a few minutes and process those things, right? But then after that, don't dwell. Cut it off and move on with your day. If you feel frustrated, throw a little tantrum for a few minutes. That's all right. You know, throw pillows across the room, or punch a pillow, or take a pillow, scream into it. Well, do whatever you need to do for a few minutes, and then cut it off and move on with your day. Don't dwell on the feeling. That's where people get in trouble. We're not saying you guys are having to suppress, which is, again, what is suppressing? It's trying to feel nothing. But if you let it out and you dwell, you're feeling all of the emotions. We're going into black and white behavior again. Don't suppress, but don't let it out and feel it all day. The middle, the gray behavior, again, is letting it surface, feeling what you need to feel for a few minutes, and then cutting it off and moving on with your day. That's the gray area behavior for that as well. That's the healthy way to process that. If anyone's interested in Krista's crying chair, it will. I will be posting the link to the eBay thing. I'm joking, by the way. It's not real. It's not real. I don't need no one calling me out on this forum saying Junior money hungry. He's trying to sell this chair for $1 million. So.
Got my honorary little tiger water bottle for my little predator for my nervous system.
There you go.
I like that. I like that.
No fear.
I don't know why. I thought that was Baja Blast from Taco Bell.
Maybe this weekend I get crazy with some Taco Bell, some queso dip.
Baja Blast is legendary.
Is that the blue drink?
It's the blue one.
Blue.
I'm going to give you guys a little secret on this call that has nothing to do with recovery, but you can use it after you get well. Do not share this with anybody else. Okay? This stays between us.
Top secret,
because I have people that have worked at Taco Bell as friends. All Baja Blast is half Mountain Dew, half blue Powerade. That's it. Not Gatorade, specifically Powerade. It's those two drinks combined. That's what Baja Blast is. So after you recover, if you're interested, try that out. So
don't leak this, you guys. We're counting on you.
That information, okay? I trust you guys not to leak that information. All right.
Okay. Has anyone tried? Is it Baja Blast now like cheesecake or something that they've come out with?
Oh my god, I saw that. I don't know how I feel about that.
Cheesecake.
I think they're making a gelato version of it, and then they're making some kind of cake version of the Baja Blast, which I'll have to take a bite. I can't be ignorant towards it. I got to keep an open mind, but it just sounds disgusting off my initial reaction. That's all. So.
It looks pretty intense. It does look intense.
Look at Adrianne. She said,
only
"What
in
the
America."
Hell? Yeah.
I swear.
Only in America we have stuff like this. Okay. Let's see here.
All right,
you
guys.
Gonna hop off, Adrianne?
Yeah.
Hi, Adrianne.
Bye, everybody. Great job, everybody here. Keep up the great work. You guys are the strongest people I know. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Adrianne. Appreciate you. See you later. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, I like this one. David asks, oh man, I wish Adrianne was here. She just left. When does insomnia generally go away in the recovery journey? It's difficult for everyone, David. I had broken sleep all the way until I was like 70, 80% recovered. The best advice I can give you, do not track the amount of hours you sleep. And if you can't sleep, don't try to force yourself to sleep. Get up and try and do something else in the meantime. And don't get so caught up and hung up on not being able to sleep. You know where this comes from? This comes from trauma, specifically trauma of seeing videos online stressing how important sleep is for recovery. And if you don't get good sleep, you won't be able to recover. I wish I never heard that nugget of information when I was recovering, because that would have actually saved me a lot of time. Because the more I stressed about being able to sleep, it's like a catch-22, right? The more I stressed about it, the worse it got. which then led me to have a more tired day the next day. So that's the advice I can give you about sleep. Try your best not to stress about it. Don't count the hours. And if you can't sleep, don't force yourself to try to do it. Just go end up doing something else in the meantime. And if you do feel tired for it or worse for wear the next day, then that's okay. You got to be nice to yourself about it, because you don't want to get into that cycle of, I didn't sleep the day before. Now I'm tired today. What will happen tonight? Because that will follow me into tomorrow. If you get into that loop, you got to break yourself out of that. And the only way you break yourself out of that is really not caring if you sleep or not. So,
Yeah. And what you said, Junior, too, like, I can't emphasize it enough, the no tracking and no sneaky workaround tracking either, because I tried that too. I was like, okay, cool. I won't wear my watch, or I won't wear my ring, or whatever it is that you may be tracking with right now. And I won't know how much deep sleep I got and those kinds of things. But also don't wake up and go, I went to bed at 11:30. It took me probably about 45 minutes to fall asleep. And then I woke up, I saw the clock at this time. So that gives me that still counts as tracking, because I would try to like work around and be like, well, I'm just kind of seeing, just let it be right now as much as you can. I even had to, for a while, I would like turn my clocks around in my room. So I just couldn't even see them, because my brain would just automatically start to do the calculations. And that was such a big thing for me too, going through this. And I think someone else had asked, I don't remember where I saw it, but why do so many people deal with sleep disruption during recovery? And it's another symptom. It's another symptom of the state that your nervous system is in. So briefly, my little story, that was for some reason an aha moment for me, because I was like, I don't really understand how is sleep related to my nervous system. Junior's probably heard this, so sorry, Junior, but it's out in that African savannah back in time.
yeah.
Right? But if you're out there, if you think about us back in time, we're all a tribe around our campfire, and we hear a massive predator growling in the distance, a big lion, a big tiger, something is really, really close. Then you think of how everyone in the tribe is going to sleep that night, right? You're not going to get deep sleep. Some people probably won't sleep at all. They might stay up and stand guard, or they might have quote unquote insomnia because they're in that nervous system state. Other people might doze off a little bit, but they're not going to go into really deep restorative sleep, because the nervous system wants them pretty close to ready in case that predator comes. Once our nervous system shifts out of a survival mode state, then our sleep starts to normalize. So it is just another symptom. You can chalk it up to another symptom to respond well to. So maybe that helps a little bit, because that was something that kind of clicked for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your African savannah analogy. I love it. I love it, Krista. So, I want to go into a topic, but before the
Yeah.
topic, I'm going to go to the bathroom for a second. So,
Yeah.
Krista, take over for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Come on, be
Yeah,
gone.
of course. I'll be right here. Let's do another question. Let's see. I saw one. I want to answer this one from Facebook user. The question is it normal to have intense APs in the later stage of recovery? Is doing great for a while, expanding my activity gradually with a calm and positive attitude. And then this week I've had a really intense adjustment period, having symptoms like brain fog, anxiety, feelings of depression that go along with the fatigue. Not sure what triggered it. Just wondering if this is normal, quote unquote, or if I might have done something wrong and set myself back. So I just wanted to answer this one, because I went through this and I've worked with so many thrivers that have gone through this. I want to first just give you a lot of reassurance that you didn't do anything wrong. This is very much to be expected. So I was going along, I was doing quite great. And the thing is, as we're going along in recovery, we can get quite used to not having these adjustment periods, and we can get out of the practice of responding well. And then all of a sudden we can trigger an adjustment period where we have some of those almost like day one symptoms. And that's how mine was. And it caught me a little bit off guard, because I'd kind of started coasting in recovery. I was doing pretty well, but my nervous system still had another test for me. I still had this next adjustment period to go through. So I want to give you that encouragement that totally to be expected, very, very common. You didn't do anything wrong. Just get back to your basics, get back to responding well to these symptoms, get back to all of your swatting your thoughts and any of the techniques that have worked for you. And then another thing too, just be mindful of the language you're using around your symptoms right now too, because we can link a lot of things like the crushing fatigue or the terrible brain fog. When we start giving these more emotionally amplified adjectives around the symptoms, that's starting to light up that part of our brain again too. It puts us more in that survival mode state. So that's a big reason we'll have you guys use a lot of more neutral language around symptoms and saying things like, yeah, it's really challenging, or it's a really thick adjustment period, or you can get creative with the language. But it's totally normal to have intense adjustment periods at later stages of recovery. Definitely.
For sure. This actually perfectly segues into my topic. If you're at a later stage in recovery where you feel like you're 80 to 90% recovered, stop identifying with the illness. It's not necessary anymore. Stop saying you have CFS. Stop saying you have long COVID. Stop saying you have fibro if you're 80 to 90%. The reason why I say this is because just simply believing that you're sick could actually be, because everyone asks, oh, I'm at 80%. I need to get over that last hump. That last hump could actually be you just telling yourself that you're sick still, or believing in yourself that you're sick still. And I'll use a great analogy for this. Let's go back to the broken leg thing, actually. So if you break your leg for, the first few weeks or maybe a few months, you have to be in a wheelchair, right? This is how you get around because your leg is broken. And if anyone asks you while you're in a wheelchair, you tell them it's because my leg is broken. And then you eventually go from wheelchair and transition into crutches. And you can walk around with the crutches, right? And if anyone asks you why you're using crutches, it's because your answer is I broke my leg, right? My leg is broken and it's still healing. But eventually there will come a time where you are off the crutches and you're able to walk with both feet. Sure, you might have to walk a little bit slower than regular people. But from the outside looking in, most people actually might not be able to notice a little bit. But every time you walk, still, you can't put too much pressure on that leg. It still, has to be taken care of and tended to appropriately, but you can walk on this leg, right? And it's still healing a little bit, but it's much, much, much more normal. And then let's say fast forward a little bit later, now we're walking regularly for the most part. You still feel pain when you put pressure on that leg a little bit, but you understand it's healing and you're almost there. And because you're almost there, if somebody asks you in that state, are you going to tell them that your leg is broken?
Right.
No, you're not. You're just going to tell them, yeah, I did break my leg back then. I'm way better now. It's healing. And I'm almost there. I'm pretty much normal. So that's kind of what you want to tell yourself in that stage of recovery. Be that person who can walk, but still has a little bit of pressure on their leg. Tell them in the past, yeah, I broke my leg, but I'm pretty much normal. Same thing here. If you're 80%, sure. In the past, your nervous system was hypersensitive, but I'm pretty close to normal right now. The closer you feel perceptually and emotionally to normal, the faster your brain allows you to get there as well. So, and I say this a lot to my folks who are like 80, 90, 95% recovered. Most of the time, the last hump is you. Actually, it's not like, oh, I have to do a novel experience. Most of the time, the last hump is actually you believing that you're still sick. You could actually do a lot of things physically wrong in this stage and still believe that you're normal, and you'll still get over that hump. Whereas someone could do everything right physically, still believe genuinely deep in their soul that they're sick at like 80% recovery. That's the hump that they need to get over is themselves. Don't tell yourself that you're sick or label or identify with, I have CFS, I still have a little bit of long COVID in me, I still have a little bit of fibro in me. Say, I'm healing and I'm almost there and I'm pretty much normal again. That's a huge thing that helped me at the later stages of my recovery. I stopped identifying with the illness. It's much easier to identify with it when you're in the trenches and it's more severe. Don't do that on the later stages. It could be a roadblock in itself. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen this, Junior. So thank you for bringing up this topic. And I also want to say, like, for me on my journey, it took a while. In full transparency, it took a while. I had this really awesome coach who told me it's almost like CFS has a hook in you for a while. Do you remember telling me that, Junior? And I truly felt that. Like I still noticed my tendency to have a lot of hypervigilance around any sensations in my body. And it took me a while to be like, oh, normal people sometimes have headaches, instead of like my CFS way of thinking of like, uh-oh, like, is this an adjustment period? Am I going backwards? I still had some of those residual thoughts that were very like hyper alert to any sensations that I had in my body. And it took time and it took repetition and exactly what you're talking about, Junior, starting to see myself as a healthy, recovered person and be doing that became my new thought swatting of like, no, I'm recovered, and keep showing my brain that and gathering more evidence for that. And I still remember, like, I was hiking for a long time and doing hard hikes. And I still remember the first hike that I didn't have any thoughts about my heart rate and like, is this the POTS, or what if I need a helicopter? SWAT, like those were still coming on. Even when I was doing challenging hikes, there would still be that little like CFS troll voice or that CFS hook kind of pulling me into that hypervigilance. And it was that later stage of recovery that I kind of had to apply those same kind of techniques, but just in a different way and showing myself that I was recovered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have to ask ourselves that follow-up question too, because I had that as well, Krista, at a really high level of recovery where I was able to walk 4 or 5 miles, right? And that's not a small feat. I was able to walk around the mall, go shopping for hours, go restaurants or whatever. And every time I'd step into the mall, which I knew I could do for a few hours, it's like, okay, but will I be able to handle the last like 30 minutes of the mall, or will I be crashed out for like the next couple days? Or if I'm on like mile 6 or 7, I'd be like, should I have someone on speed dial so they can come pick me up if I can't handle the walk or not? And this is me being able to walk 6 or 7 miles.
Yeah.
The question becomes, why am I still worrying about that?
Yeah.
It's because deep down, I still believe I'm still sick. That's why. But when I finally let go of that and I learned to kind of act and behave and think like a normal person, of like, I'm exhausted at mile 6 or 7. Instead of asking, is this normal? You kind of reframe, is this normal, to more defending yourself. So you say, wow, I'm tired at mile 6 to 7. Okay, cool. So normal people get tired at mile 6 to 7. Nice. Because that's what I'm experiencing, because I'm not separate from a normal person anymore. I am normal now. So instead of asking, do people get tired at mile 6 to 7? It was actually me just confirming to myself, I'm at mile 6 to 7 right now and I'm tired. That means normal people get tired at mile 6 to 7. You don't ask, you reassure. You are, what I'm saying is, you don't ask, you become the answer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I just want to acknowledge this. This was a tricky part of recovery for me. I don't know that this gets spoken about that much, but it took a while, and it came off in layers for me to really trust and see that I was truly healthy and truly thriving. And it took work. It didn't just like, it wasn't like a switch just hit for me. It came off layer by layer because I had a lot of, you could call it, some people may call it trauma around this. I'd been in this illness for years, and had lots of experiences that confirmed the other, that I was not doing so well. And so it took going through recovery and in this repetition and this practice and cultivating that sense to really take me that final step. It was tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. But mindset's a huge, huge role. Perception and how you see yourself compared to regular people, if you see yourself as regular or not, plays a huge factor in the last like 80% of recovery. Huge thing. Okay. We got a question from user KT on YouTube asking, hold on. Let me see if I can show this. Can I? Here we go.
Yeah, you did. That's so cool.
KT, should I focus on heart rate when moving? Some communities say that you should keep heart rate under 85 to 95. I'm going to tell you right now, KT, if you try to recover and keep your heart rate in between this range, you are going to recover like a caged bird. That's not how this works. You got to let your heart rate get up there sometimes, and you got to let your heart rate go down sometimes too. If you stay within this limit here, it's not going to be a fun journey for you at all. So open up the cage and stop being a cage bird. Open up the cage, get out there, let your heart rate sometimes hit 110, 120, 130 when you're out there, because a lot of the heart rate stuff, especially POTS, from what we see, Krista, number one, a lot of it has to do with blood pressure, and systolic, right? But A lot of it has to do with fear. A lot of it has to do with fear and insecurity and just really hyper focusing on the heart rate. I can't get it past this and this and this because something will happen. Ask yourself the question, then what will happen? Something really bad. Who told you that? Right? So
this one's near and dear to me too, for KT who's going through this, because I went through this as well. I had POTS, I had dysautonomia, and I was told this not only just by forums, by doctors. And I had my background was in physical therapy, and I was taking continuing education classes, and there's a lot of talk about this pacing using heart rate to stay in a certain threshold. And it truly, for me, it really became like I had a handcuff to the illness. I couldn't go for a walk without checking down at my heart rate and seeing this. And the other thing that like kind of blows me away is resting heart rate for a normal person is between 60 to 100 beats. Resting heart rate. You take a person that's dealing with some dysautonomia, that's also deconditioned, and you get them up walking. Guess what's going to happen to their heart rate naturally, normally? It's going to go up. It's going to go above resting. It's probably going to get in the hundreds pretty easily for most of us. But when I saw that, when it hit that 105, it was like an alarm, an alert went off, and I could feel that. And that was the information I was giving my nervous system. So then what do you think happened next? My heart rate went up even higher. So to me, even professionally, this heart rate tracking stuff is just it's just not good information in my opinion. I've just not seen anyone that this has worked for.
yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're someone who's been to the doctor, has no history of family heart complications, and has been told your heart is fine. But the only thing that happened is you went online after you went to the ER and read something that you have to keep it between here and here, or you found a coach or something that told you have to stay between here and here. Dude, don't do that, man. Don't do that. You're going to recover like a caged bird. Take the shackle off. It's literally a handcuff to the illness. If you wear a smartwatch, get a regular watch, like a regular analog or an automatic watch, like just a regular one, right? Nothing that tracks anything. If you're tracking something, if you're writing stuff down, your activity throughout the day, any type of, and this is a question I ask actually on my one-on-ones with people, is how much do you overthink, analyze, ask questions? Specifically, how much reassurance or clarity do you need in order to feel better? Because what's happening is it's a false sense of control, what you're trying to do. You're trying to get answers of, is this normal? How much am I sleeping? What's my heart rate? What's my HRV? Where's my blood pressure out? When you're doing all these things, when you're trying to get all this information, you're taking all this information you're getting as reassurance, and you're feeding it to your limbic system. And when you're doing that, when you're giving your survival brain, your limbic system, all this reassurance and all this information, what you're doing is you're signaling to that part of your brain that I'm giving you all this information to let you know everything's going to be okay. But what situation kind of is appropriate to tell someone everything's going to be okay? Not a safe one. That's the thing. Safe people never need to be told everything's going to be okay. Only people in danger need to be told that. So when you're looking for the details, when you're trying to find the answers, when you're trying to find clarity or reassurance about something, you're signaling to your brain that something's wrong, because you're trying to make sure everything's going to be okay. Safe people never have to do that. That's why we tell people, stop tracking, stop looking at the numbers, stop writing stuff down, stop counting your hours, stop measuring your walking distance, your steps, stop doing all that, right?
Yeah.
You're literally signaling to your brain that danger exists. So it's not
And
good.
I was so amplifying like the disconnect too. A disconnect and a distrust with my body. I was telling myself, and I didn't realize this, that like I couldn't be trusted to know if it was okay. I had totally derailed, had no intuition, and I was riding on all of these externals. And by doing that, I was getting more and more uncertain of what was actually going on in my body. And any sense of intuition or self-trust or trust in my body, I was delegating all of that to these externals, these numbers that had very little to do with what I was actually experiencing a lot of times. And then I'd find I let those numbers define me. I remember one day checking my HRV and it was not a great number. And that I just spiraled that day because I'd rested, I'd done these things right. And then here was this HRV that was still a crappy number. And it was so, I just really spiraled that day. So these numbers, you guys, ditch them right now. Really ditch them.
You know, when I knew I had a problem, Crista, is well, it's kind of like this. Like, it's almost as no, it's not almost. It's actually the equivalent of someone who like weighs themselves every day. You know, like don't do that. That's so unhealthy. You know how I knew I had a problem with tracking is actually my phone. So the iPhone will get updates quite often, right? And when you update your phone, it has to reset. And then what the iPhone does is it'll pop up the Apple logo, and then it'll give you a bar
Yep.
to show you how far it's gone. I knew I had an issue because I would sit there and stare at this bar loading until it got all the way to the other side so I can use it again. What I should have done was just put it down and go do something else. I'm so fixated on this bar, like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And then it would stop like halfway, and I'd be like, what's going on? What's going on? And then I had a huge mind shift when I was staring at the the bar on my phone of like, I do this with everything. I wait for adjustment periods to end. I count the days. I do this with my walk. Like, I wait for how much time it takes for flare-ups to kick in. I was like, I actually have a tracking problem with like everything. It's not just my heart, it's with everything. So I was like, moving forward, I was like, whenever my phone updates, I'm going to put it down and do something else. Whenever I'm in an adjustment period, I'm not going to count the days. I'm just going to distract myself with something else while I'm resting during a flare up. Whenever I'm walking, I'm not going to count my steps. I'm going to distract myself and do something else, like listen to music or take photos or listen to a podcast while I'm walking. I'm going to be doing something else. Don't be that guy that stares at the download bar. Put your phone down and do something else while that thing loads so you don't track, right? And so same thing with the sleeping. Instead of counting the hours that you're not sleeping, get up and go do something else to distract yourself, right?
And good point, because I think it's tracking with everything, because the weight can be a thing too. Anything with numbers, you guys, any symptom tracking. And ladies, this includes our cycles too. When you start relying on these apps and you're anticipating your cycle and you're using these tracking apps right now, especially if you're having symptoms with your cycle, ditch those as well. This is all tracking. This all goes under that, putting that magnifying glass over the symptoms, which is what we need to get away from to get traction and keep that momentum going. Great topic.
Yeah. Great topic.
So important.
Great topic. Laura has a kick butt question. Is there a difference to recover from people who have fibro or CFS? Not really. The approach is kind of subtly different. And when it comes to CFS, your main symptoms are probably like fatigue, POTS, brain fog. With fibro, your main symptom is pain. Right. And so we tell people to respond well to the symptoms. For my fibro folks with pain, I don't really tell them to respond well to the pain specifically. The pain is just a communicator. What I actually do for specifically with fibro, respond to how the pain makes you feel. Because the pain, like I said, is a communicator and it's trying to message you something that it wants you to work on. So pain is surface level, but how does the pain make you feel? Because sometimes pain can remind you of a trauma. Sometimes pain can remind you of fear. Sometimes pain can remind you of whatever it is, right? If the pain makes you scared, you have to work on courage. If pain makes you, reminds you of a trauma or something, then, and the specific feeling, the grief elicited by the trauma. So if the pain makes you feel grief instead of fear, then you have to learn how to work well with responding to grief. It's not always like directly responding to, oh, it hurts. Like oh, my body hurts. I just have to respond well to how bad it hurts. Like 90% of the time I work with fibro people, it's not just as simple as, oh, it hurts, I have to respond well to the pain. Because if it was that simple, a lot of people would recover a lot faster. Most of the time with fibro people, it's like, oh, it hurts and it makes me feel some type of way or reminds me of something. Work on responding well to that specific feeling. So that's what I've seen mainly. Crista, I'll have you chime in too if you got anything.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Junior, too. And I think, this is where I think with the individual coaching and stuff, we get to dive in a lot deeper to this and work with folks on finding those things. Cause I'm seeing a question in there about someone that has brain fog. And I want to kind of touch on that. For me, brain fog, it had a lot going on, that particular symptom. A lot of my values, I valued being intelligent. I valued my ability to do academics. I valued my ability to multitask. So much of my self-worth and the way I perceived myself to be able to exist in the world and everything that I valued was related to being able to think clearly. So this is kind of like what you're talking about too with fibro too. It's what is that pain? What does that mean? And can you respond well to that? And so for me with the brain fog, to kind of go to that question, I had to be much more okay with not having that intellectual capacity to dial down my IQ, to respond well to how the brain fog made me feel, which is a nuance. And I think that's what you're saying with the pain too. It's like, it can be like with a specific individual, when you have more one-on-one coaching, you can really dial this in and find out and tease out some of those things. But
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So pain, it's if it's your main symptom, you have to respond to how it makes you feel. If it's a rotating symptom, there probably is no underlying feeling. It's just a rotating symptom that you have to, so like if brain fog, if you don't normally get it and it's rotated in, you don't have to dig deeper of like, oh, how does the brain fog make me feel? If it's a rotating symptom, just respond well, it'll rotate out. But like for people whose main symptom is brain fog and it's always there, it's just better or worse. Yeah. If it's a primary symptom for you, now you got to ask yourself the question of why cannot you respond well to this? What's going on here? How does the brain fog make you feel? And that's why I kind of take like a deeper secondary layer with fibro clients, because fibro is their main symptom. The pain is their main symptom. It's not a rotating symptom. So now we have to do the secondary question. What does the pain make you feel? That's what you have to work on specifically. Right?
Thank you for clarifying it like that. That helps, Junior. That was great. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Of course. Skittles Wild Berry. The purple bag is the best one. Not the red one, the purple one. This is my favorite snack of choice post recovery. So very exciting. What is your snack, Chris? I know you like cheese.
Oh, cheese. Yeah, definitely fancy, ridiculous cheese. I don't know, man. Pizza though. I'm a sucker for pizza. I don't know why. Just when it couldn't have gluten or cheese or red sauce because of nightshades, and the meat had to be low histamine, and pizza was untouchable from a lot of my journey. And once I could get pizza back in, that was pizza's always just gonna hold a special place in my heart, I think.
I think pizza was one of my biggest milestones when I was recovering, not because it was my favorite food, but it was the number one food for me that signified that I was well when it came to my food sensitivities. And it's not because pizza was, like I said, my favorite or it tasted the greatest, but it was because of what pizza represented. Because pizza is very processed. It's high in gluten, high in dairy, high in nightshades and histamine. It's the literal combination of everything everyone tells you to stay away from. And I could eat it and not flare up. It's what pizza represented, which was so impactful for me. And when I ate it and I didn't flare up the next day, I knew it was over. It was finally done. So,
well, that's a joke we have, right? Like in the WINS channel in the program, it's like there's the pizza recovery milestone. It's like the holy grail, because it's just you're checking all these things in one slice. It's just amazing. I am laughing though. I see Jackie's got you in the chat. She says you ate fruit last night, which that is true.
I tried. Yeah, I tried to eat fruit. This is technically fruit, Jackie. If you look, the flavors: cherry, strawberry, raspberry.
It's health food. It's basically health food.
Yeah. So, all right. Excellent. Well, we ran out of time. This is super chill session. I love these things, Krista.
This was awesome.
So, this is awesome. We can go ahead and wrap this one up. You guys had great questions, great discussions. Thanks for hanging out with us as well and just letting us ramble on for, what is it, like an hour and a half. We'll see you guys next time, hopefully sooner than later, right? But until then, take care of yourselves, everybody. All right, hang in there. Like Adrianne said, you guys are the strongest people we know. All right,
Thank you
Excellent.
guys so much for spending time with us. Keep up the great work. You guys got this.
Oh, yeah.
Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Catch you guys later.